views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Let me take this opportunity to welcome everyone to the Community Board meeting for June 2021. My name is Dr. Michael Burke, and I am your chairman for this evening. Before we begin, I would like to ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And so, as we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to ask that if you also care to join me, if you would please join me in a word of prayer. Before we begin, I'm also going to ask for those of you that have your mics open, if you would close your mics, please, so that one person can speak. And so I'm going to ask Deacon Clinton Mike if he would bring us opening prayer. Deacon Mike.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Let us look to the Lord. Lord, we just want to thank you. We want to thank you for bringing us all together this evening. Lord, we want you to we ask you to look over our community. We ask you to look over everyone on this call, Lord. If it's not too much, we ask you to watch over our city and cover the city of New York and all its inhabitants in your blood, Lord. But we just want to thank you for waking us up this morning. I want to thank you for keeping us at all times. In your precious name we pray, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Deacon Mike, and I really appreciate the warm opening prayer. So this is our last meeting of the cycle, as Mr. Castro reminded me. So I appreciate him being on with such and for many of you in the community that know Mr. Castro knows that he's an icon of our community. So again, when he when he corrected me, I gladly said, yes, sir, you're absolutely right. So again, thank you, Mr. DeCastro. So, okay, I'm hearing background noise, so I'm going to have to mute everybody for now. And as I said, we will move forward. So what I would like to do also is I would also like to thank a couple of people in particular. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Mr. Jerry Bennett for being able to hold down the meeting for us last month. I really, really, and truly appreciate her doing that in my absence. So before we begin, I'm going to actually ask that we take a look at the agenda. And so just to let everybody know what the agenda is for the evening. So the first thing, as we always do, is we have our public gallery session. And then, of course, we will hear from our elected officials. Then, of course, Alexis from the Bronx Borough President's Office will give greetings from the Bronx Borough President. I will give my report, and District Manager will then give his. And then we will go into a presentation, which we will have from the Department of Transportation. And then last but not least, we're going to vote on committee recommendations and talk about some things in old and new business, and then we wind up leaving the meeting. So with that being said, I would like to ask for a motion of unanimous consent to accept the agenda as we see. So can I have a motion from everybody or somebody?
So move. John Isaac, so move.
Okay.
Robert Hall, second.
Thank you. Are there any objections? So ordered. So we have our agenda accepted. So at this point, we are going to go directly into the public gallery session. So in order for that to take place, I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful first vice chair. I was about to say Beatrice, but she's on my mind. Madam First Vice Chair is Jeria Bennett. So, Madam First Vice Chair, take it away.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. So with our public gallery, if you want to speak, I'm going to ask if you would at least raise your hand. You look at the icon at the bottom of your screen and you can raise your hand so we can call on you. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. And I'm going to ask our second vice chair, John Isaac, to keep time so that he would kind of, let you know when you have about 30 seconds left. Okay? So is there anyone in here who wants to speak now? Okay, Mr. DeCastro, you can unmute yourself.
On the evening of June the 5th, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. On the evening of June the 15th, I thought I was going to die in my own driveway. For many months, I've been complaining about men congregating at 224th Street and Laconia Avenue. And that evening, shots were fired. A friend of mine was leaving. She'd driven out the driveway and she was trying to manipulate to go down 224th Street towards Shefflin Avenue. When the shots were fired, I was standing in the driveway. There was a white vehicle van directly across, not directly, but across from where I live. That vehicle took off, but it couldn't go down to 24th Street because it was blocked by another car. So that vehicle came into my driveway and started approaching me. And I was backing up and the vehicle kept approaching me. I finally fell on my back and hit my head. The man in the vehicle got out of the car, came over, moved me from where I had fallen to another spot. I asked him to please help me to my door because I couldn't get up. He refused to help me. He moved me again. I called out to a neighbor next door who had seen what had happened. He didn't come to help me either. I finally was able to get over and crawled over to a little fence in my yard. And I was able to get up and get into my house. I really thought I was going to die that night. Since then, I have sent out letters to all the elected officials and the community board for a resolution as to what's going to happen. The police came and they put up a light. It has 3 lights on the corner of Laconia and 224th, and all the roaches have disappeared. My question is, when the lights go, will the roaches come back? He said, my time is up. And I said, we need some help because I'm sure that once the police take the lights away, that those men will return. Until then, I am concerned for the community. I'm concerned for my life. I'm concerned for other people getting hurt. And this was not the first arrest. An arrest was made. It's not the first arrest that was made on that corner. So I'm going to leave it at that point, and anybody who wants to make comments, go right ahead. But I did make some recommendations in the letter to the community board, and I'm waiting for a follow-up on that. I did receive responses from the speaker, the district attorney, the chairman of the board, and the manager. And so far, that's all I know that's happened. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay. All right. So, speaker, yes, Mr. Carl Heastie.
So, I was one of the people, unfortunately, that Al had reached out to that night. And I immediately reached out to Inspector Nunez and I told him what had happened in front of Al's house. And at that point, He told me he was on it, and that's why they did put the lights there. And he did say that there was, an arrest. And so I'll just say to you, I'll continue. I'll ask the inspector to keep the lights on, as you say, coaches don't come back. But we have it's a nationwide, it's a citywide issue with guns. And I'd say a little later on hopefully sometime later, I think this summer, we're going to be making an announcement. We put a lot of money into the budget for anti-violence, to BRAG, to SCP, to all of the violence prevention, gang prevention. We're even giving a grant to DA Clark to deal with the gun violence that is running rampant in our streets and our cities. So we're trying, from a government standpoint, to respond as best we can with dealing with trying to get the anti-violence groups engaged. And I had a long conversation with the mayor on Tuesday about the issue of the gun violence. So I just want people to know I have had that conversation with the mayor and with the inspector about the gun violence in the community.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Okay. Is there anybody else? No? All right. Are there any other speakers for the public gallery? I don't see any hands raised right now. Okay. So with that being said, if there are none, I see that Bronx DA Marilex put information of the district attorney's office. That number is put into the chat for follow-up. So, okay, if there are none and being none, I think we can move on from the public gallery, and I could turn it back over to you, Dr. Burke.
Thank you, Madam First Vice Chair. So let me comment, as I said, because I did talk with Mr. DeCastro, and I'm glad that Speaker Hasty was able to, use his resources to get you those lights. And as I told you before, Mr. DeCastro, I think you have the weight of the entire community behind you. And so, I know that, as I told you that day, the district manager and I actually spoke about that very issue, when you and I had spoken. And so, hopefully, as I said, between us and the speaker and Councilman Riley, we can come up with a permanent solution, as the speaker stated, so that you can feel safe. Because if anybody should feel safe, it's people like you, Ms. Fearon, and so many others who have paved the way for people like me and the speaker and Councilman Riley and Ajiri and Madam First Vice Chair and so many others that are on this call. To be able to do the things that we do. So thank you again for your service to this community. And so with that being said, we're now moving to the next order of business, which is the elected officials and or their representatives. So normally at this time, we start with the city leaders because, this is a city organization, but, we're not going to be disrespectful to the number 3 person in New York State. So Assembly Speaker Carl Hasty is here with us. So, Mr. Speaker, please feel free to unmute yourself and bring us greetings from Albany.
I think I am unmuted. Well, I can officially say I'm not bringing greetings from Albany. I'm sitting in my den in my house because session is over. So I'm back for the summer. I'm going to be making a couple of upstate tours to some of the newer members' districts, but I'm pretty much home. So let me just kind of wrap up, what we did at the end of session. And I'm trying to remember the last time I was on the community board meeting. I wasn't sure whether it was before or after we passed the budget, but I can just give a quick wrap up of the things that we accomplished in the budget, particularly to help throughout this pandemic. We put massive amounts of money in for education, federal money, There's $3 billion to help homeowners and renters who are struggling. We even have a $100 million fund to help homeowners or landlords who've had tenants who may have left because in order to get the rental assistance, if the landlord applies on the tenant's behalf, the tenant still has to sign off. But we actually even put together another fund just in case there's, not cooperation on behalf of the tenant. We put aside $1 billion to help small businesses who struggled outside of the federal PPP program. There are grants available from $5,000 to $50,000. If people need more information, you can reach out to my office and we'll help guide people through that process. It's through ESD. The rental assistance is through the Office of Temporary Disabilities, OTDA. If anybody, and we also passed $2 billion excluded worker fund to help our undocumented brothers and sisters who were, essential workers and were working and didn't get any compensation from the federal government. So those are, I'd say, are the big budget items. I was actually talking to George earlier because I wanted to make sure we had the right information. As of midnight tonight, the governor has ended the state of emergency in the state of New York, which means life will pretty much, I'd say in terms of government regulation, will go back to normal. I still encourage people, if you're going to be in crowds, particularly indoors, I would still recommend you to wear a mask. So the meetings and things like that. So George, one of the things I didn't say, if the community board in the fall still wants to, have the virtual type meetings, you guys could do a bylaws change if people want to continue to do this. But the ending of the governor's state of emergency, I think, is a good sign, but I think we should still be very vigilant because everybody is still not 100% vaccinated, particularly here in the Bronx. We're still the worst in terms of, it's between us and Brooklyn in terms of the vaccination rates. And as I can tell you, as a COVID survivor, there's a more dangerous Delta variant out there that I want people to continue to be very mindful of. So again, in large gatherings, I will still encourage people to wear masks. We have great news. I know Mr. DeCastro, who I would call is the godfather of our new YMCA that is coming. I think we're going to have the groundbreaking is going to be ribbon cutting is September 10th. If you go by, what is it? The address I think is 1250 East 229th Street. You can see it almost looks like a college campus. It's a beautiful building. It's ready to go. And this year's budget, I gave the YMCA close to $2 million to help in operating and also to set up a scholarship fund, as I promised every body that when we were going to build that YMCA, that every single person in this community that wants to be a part of it, whether you're a rich person like Mr. DeCastro or others in our community who need help, the help will be there. The mayor made a commitment to me as well that he's given $1 million towards the YMCA to help towards the operating and also a scholarship program as well. And Councilman Riley is committing funds to that, as well as Senator Bailey, and even Congressman Bowman is trying to get funds for the YMCA for the scholarship program. And that is hugely important because, as I said, I want to make sure that every single family in this community should enjoy that. And we have the best, it's most expensive as well, costs in excess of $60 million, but we will have the best YMCA center in the entire city. I did mention about the anti-violence money. It's going to be a significant amount of money that we're bringing here to the Bronx. And then lastly, for myself, I'm going to have, we don't have a theme for it because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to have the annual Christmas party that I used to like to have. because I'm still a little concerned about having 1,000 people indoors. So on August 1st in Hafen Park, I'm gonna do a free community barbecue for everybody in the district. Just come and bring yourself. Don't worry about it. The food and drinks and things are all on me. So everybody save that date. I wish everybody well. I wish you a great summer. We're around. I know the community board won't be meeting, but of course our office, we're still not doing yet in-person meetings, but we're still available. And Beatrice, I'll get that answer for you in terms of what I can do to help out on the community survey. God bless you all, and thank you for.
Speaker Hasty, maybe we can table at that event and
Sure.
get people to fill out. That's one way to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Speaker
Okay.
Hasty, it's Dr. Robbins. How you doing?
Okay,
Great.
everybody say what, let's do this. So Dr.
Could I
Robbins,
just ask him one thing, please, Dr. Burke? One thing.
sure.
Could you please announce about what happened with Abolition Day, what the state did?
Oh, so last year when we passed Juneteenth and thankfully the federal government made Juneteenth a national holiday, which signified the end of slavery. It wasn't the official end of slavery until the 13th Amendment was ratified. But along with that, we also passed a holiday, a commemoration day of the abolition of slavery. Bessie Jackson and her beautiful 95 years of living on this planet. This was her life's mission, to get the state to acknowledge the abolition of slavery here in the state of New York. I don't know if a lot of people know, New York at one point before we abolished slavery in 1827, South Carolina was the only state that had more slaves than the state of New York. And a lot of things that have been built all around the state were actually built by slaves. And we actually in the assembly passed a bill to do a study of reparations as well in New York State. So Dr. Robbins, I know, I don't remember the date of the event that y'all were having as well in Hafen Park.
It's July the 12th at Hafen Park from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Right. So the day that the abolition of slavery in New York happened in July 4th in 1827. So to not double up, we went to the next available Monday after the July 4th to commemorate the abolition of slavery in the state of New York. So we actually has the commemoration of the abolition of slavery will be celebrated the preceding Monday after the July 4th weekend.
Sorry. Okay, Speaker Hasty, we have one more question that I'm going to allow Ms. Moore. You have a question for the speaker?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Burke. Hi, Speaker Hasty. I had a quick question. You mentioned a few programs for homeowners, renters, and small businesses, and I know that these questions have been coming around a lot in the community. How do homeowners get access to these resources that the state has passed, renters and small businesses? Is there a way that your office can make this list widely available to the community to have access to, so that we're able to apply to these services? And this follow-up question would be, can your office consider providing technical assistance workshops to homeowners and small businesses on how to access these resources?
Right. So that's an excellent question. Thank you for that, Ms. Moore. So one of the things I can do in my next newsletter, because when I sent out my previous newsletter, when we passed all of these resources in the budget, each of the agencies that are responsible for administering these funds had to set up portals for people to access it. So one of the things I will do in my next newsletter, I will put in which agency people should contact for rental assistance, for assistance for being for an excluded worker, assistance for a small business, and assistance particularly for renters and homeowners. I will put those contact information in, but in the meantime, if people need that assistance, they can reach out to my office and we will direct that. But it's vitally important because they're doing particularly the rental assistance is being done in stages. So it's vitally important for people to apply as soon as possible because we want to get that money out the door. It's $2.3 billion on the rental assistance, and then like I said, it's another $100 million that we put in. But I will try to make that information as readily available. I'll even try to post it on my social media as well.
Okay, thank you, Speaker Hasty. We really appreciate you coming in and being able to answer those questions for our constituents as usual. Like I said, we will always be able, ready, and willing to support you. So just let us know whatever we can do to assist you. And like I said, we really appreciate you coming on. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Not a problem. So next, we would like to move on to our city officials. And so we'll start with the 11th Council District. So I see where Sabrina is here from Councilman Denowitz's office. So Sabrina, please unmute yourself. I don't have your last name. I just have the name that you typed in.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sabrina Campbell. I work within Councilmember Denowitz's office as a constituent advocate, but also as his scheduler. We only have an update in regards to an event that we're hosting this coming Saturday, which is our movie night. And that's going to be up the hill in Williamsbridge Oval Reservoir Park, or Reservoir Oval Park. And we'll be showing the movie Jumanji. That starts around 8:30. As well as on Sunday, June 27th, we will be co-hosting a street renaming ceremony with Councilmember Riley's office in honor of Bishop Michelle White Haynes. So from our office is not physically open for constituents to walk in. If you don't know where our office is located, we can be found on 227 West 231st Street, obviously completely far from the Wakefield area, but we are just a phone call away. I'll place all my information in the chat and how you can get in contact with the office. But we are hosting outdoor office hours throughout the district. We were in Wakefield this afternoon, and we should be back in Wakefield either next Tuesday or next Thursday. But you guys can keep in touch with me. Like I said, I will share my contact information as well as the council member's email within the chat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very, very much. We really appreciate you coming out, and please give Councilman Denowitz our best. Next, from Councilman Riley's office, I see where there's Miss Cynthia Prisco. Miss Prisco?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cynthia Prisco. I'm the constituent liaison at Councilmember Kevin Riley's office. Glad to virtually meet everyone, and I hope to meet you all in person sometime very soon. I just wanted to let everyone know that our office is open at 135 Einstein Loop, room 44 in Clark City, and that our 940 East Gun Hill Road office is closed for renovation. You can contact us at 718-684-5509 or 347-326-8652. I'll also be posting all of this information again in the chat, but please do not hesitate to reach out anything that's going on, any concerns you have. And I know there were some concerns mentioned earlier. Please do email me, and please do call our office. And I also wanted to mention that we will be having pop-up constituent services tomorrow at Government Houses at 745 Magenta Street from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. I invite everyone to stop by and meet me in person and meet the rest of the team.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much, Ms. Prisco. We do appreciate you coming in and bringing us greetings from Councilman Riley's office. So the councilman is available for us to meet him tomorrow. So for those of you that are able, please stop by. and meet the councilman. Next, of course, is Mr. Ivan Nez from Assemblyman Denowitz's office. Mr. Nez, how are you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Well, hi everybody. Ivan from State Assemblyman Denowitz's office here. Don't really have any updates from our office since the last meeting. However, we are looking to schedule a free paper shredding event sometime in September. When we have the date, we'll send out the information and make sure that everybody knows. I'm dropping my information into the chat right now. And as Speaker Hasty mentioned, with the governor lifting the state of emergency, we will be looking to open up our office hours to the same hours that were prior to the pandemic. Right now, we're open 10 to 3 Monday through Thursday for outdoor visits, and we are working remotely on Fridays. However, we're hoping to open the office fully within the coming weeks. So we'll keep everybody posted about that. But outside of that, if you need to contact me, I've also included my contact information in the chat as well. So hope everybody enjoys the break, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Nez. I have a question for you. One of the things that Assemblyman Denowitz and I were discussing was, of course, the follow-up on 4848 Bronx Boulevard. I think we probably need to put our heads together.
47?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. 47.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No, I got you.
I'm thinking that we probably need to put our heads together and maybe get a response. I mean, like I said, I haven't had a chance to speak with the DM on this yet, but to see, because remember that was supposed to be quote unquote temporary. So
yeah, I have an answer on it.
Okay, great.
I'll speak to it when I get to my turn.
Okay, that's fair enough. All right, so hopefully it is temporary, so we will wait on to hear what we have to say from our district manager, okay? All right, great. Next, we would like to hear, I see where Angela Conley is here from Senator Biaggi's office. How are you doing, Ms. Conley?
Hi, good evening, Dr. Burke. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe and healthy. I just have a few quick announcements. Speaker Hasty really touched on a lot of the accomplishments that were made this past year during this last legislative session. Big thanks to him for his leadership on all that was done. He did mention 2 programs that I wanted to highlight, the New York State Emergency Rental Assistance Program and the COVID-19 Pandemic Small Business Recovery Grant Program. So I had those 2 links ready to go, and I put those in the chat, and I'm happy to help anyone with that. My colleagues are as well. We're around and available, or if anyone has any other questions about other programs that are available to help anyone who is in need of assistance. And like a lot of other offices, now that the COVID restrictions have been lifted, we are also sort of planning ahead and planning to reopen for in-person constituent services visits. But as of now, we are not meeting anyone in person, but we are available by phone, but really hoping to open up and see some of you all in person this summer. That is about it for me. I will leave my email, my phone number in the chat again, and I'm hoping everyone has a great and restful summer. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to message me or ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conley. Please give Senator Biaggi our best, and we will see her again in the fall, okay? Bailey's office. Is there anyone here from Senator Bailey's office? Okay. Moving forward, Marilex, I know that you were here from the DA's office, so Mrs. Tavares.
How are you, everyone? This is Marilex from the Bronx District Attorney's Office. Sorry, I'm actually attending like 2 meetings at the same time. This weekend, this Saturday, June 26th, between the hours of 10 to 4, our DA will be hosting a gun buyback at the Christ Church located at 860 Forest Avenue. That's between East 160 is 60th Street and 161st Street in the Bronx. So basically, anyone that decides to turn an operable handgun or assault rifles will receive a 200 prepaid card plus a free iPad from the our office. That's for the first 76 participants, and that will be this Saturday. And that's it. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact me. You can ask me now. I put my information in the chat. If you didn't receive a flyer, please send me your emails and I'll send it to you right now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Marilex, from bringing greetings from DA Clark's office. So next, we normally have Mr. Vasquez from Congressman Bowman's office, but he's actually being replaced today by Mr. Brandon Lloyd. So, Mr. Lloyd, welcome to Community Board 12.
Thank you, Mr. Burke, and thank you everyone for having us. As Mr. Burke stated, my colleague Nick Vasquez is usually an attendee here, but unfortunately he had surgery yesterday, so he is healthily recovering. But I just have a quick few updates that I'll try to run through, and I have a few, I'll start off with some legislative updates and some district updates. If there's any questions that I can answer, I will make sure to place my email and my phone number in the chat so that I can get you guys' questions answered. So in DC, Congressman Bowman has been busy advocating for federal infrastructure investments that meet the needs of our constituents. Given the urgent housing crisis in New York City, the Congressman is advocating for increased funding for public housing and robust investments in affordable housing at a federal level. And to raise awareness for this issue, he's hosting a rally/press conference at Edenwald Houses on Monday, June 28th at 10 a.m. Once again, that will be a rally/press conference at Edenwald Houses on Monday, June 28th at 10. I'll make sure to throw my contact information in the chat once again so that I can send that flyer to anyone interested. And if you need any additional information, you can please reach out to our policy director. I'll make sure to throw that in the chat right now. Additionally, the expanded and improved child tax credit is a historic change that is really a lifeline to the middle class and cuts child poverty. It provides children and their families with additional payments throughout the year that helps them with the cost of food, childcare, diapers, healthcare, clothing, which I'm sure you all know of. For New York 16, how it specifically impacts our district, 75.8% of children in the district will gain from expanded and improved child tax credits. So if my math is correct, that translates to 124,400 children. The average benefit for 41,800 households is $2,800. And if successful, the expanded and improved child tax credit should lift 9,200 children in the district out of poverty. Families with children in poverty will receive $4,300 on average. In addition, 4,700 children in the district will be lifted out of deep poverty. So now I'll transition into some more of our district-specific updates. Tomorrow at 5:30 p.m., our office will be hosting a joint town hall with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to discuss public health and violence prevention models. Basically, in other words, it will be regarding public safety and gun violence. We're supposed to be having several community members and professionals alike to discuss this. So to submit a question in advance, I will place the email here in this chat. Please feel free to send any questions you have in advance to there. Also, I will submit the link for anyone interested to RSVP. That's the link that anybody can register at. And on March 10th, the House voted to pass the latest stimulus package. and following day, President Biden signed into law. If you have any questions on that, please feel free to refer to this website, this link on our website. And lastly, I'm sure several other elected offices on this call have been inundated with passport cases. Our office has received a large volume of inquiries about passports. As of March 13th of last year, unfortunately, congressional offices no longer have the jurisdiction to request consideration or to make appointments to the Department of State and the national passport agencies. So simply put, unfortunately, we cannot make passport appointments. What we can do, however, is check upon the status of said passport applications, or if anything is regarding a life or death situation, we can request for that to be expedited. Our office usually suggests, from what we've been instructed by the State Department, to obtain a passport appointment in advance. Sometimes obtaining a passport appointment can take up to 4 months. And unfortunately, this backlog is due to COVID. They have redacted, I believe, from what they said, 10 to 15% of the regular scheduled appointments that are usually available pre-COVID. Most passport offices are currently only scheduling life or death emergency appointments. And lastly, we are more than happy to inquire about the status of any passport applications and questions. So I'm going to drop my email and phone number in the chat, and if any of you guys have any follow-up questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them if I can't answer them today.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Lloyd, for bringing, give him our best. And again, if anybody has any questions for you, I'm sure that they will put it in the chat. I've seen some questions as it pertains to some of the legislation that the congressman talked about back in April when he came to visit us. So if you could, monitor the chat and maybe answer some of those questions that some of the constituents have, we would deeply appreciate it. Okay. Okay.
Of course.
Okay, not a problem.
So I believe one of the first questions is about HR 40. So for those that aren't familiar, that is a commission to study reparation proposals for the African Americans Act. Just as a little bit of context, it was introduced on January 4th of 2007 in a previous session of Congress. However, unfortunately, it did not receive a vote and had died. It was reintroduced, if I'm correct, by Representative John Conyers Jr. So, sorry, I'm just pulling up our policy director's notes on it. But basically, the bill establishes the commission to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans, which includes examining slavery and discrimination in the colonies of the U.S. from 1619 to the present, and to recommend appropriate remedies. In addition, among other requirements, it will also identify the role of federal and state governments in supporting the institution of slavery. Also, B, forms of discrimination in the public and private sectors against freed slaves and their descendants. And lastly, it'll also make sure to investigate lingering negative effects of slavery on living African Americans in society today, which will probably receive the most contention from other members. Regarding how citizens can get on this committee, Ms. Robbins, I will make sure to circle back with our policy director. I'm not entirely sure if it is open to the public, but I'll post her email here once again. And I'll also make sure to follow up with her just because I don't want to give you an inaccurate answer. In terms of where it sat, it was reintroduced on January, where it sits, excuse me, it was reintroduced January 3rd of 2019 in the Judiciary Committee. It was reintroduced and sponsored by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. So we'll also make sure to bring my colleague Nick Vasquez up to date with this so that we can keep you guys abreast of any updates on how Community Board 12 can assist with this. We regularly send out updates regarding legislation like this on our newsletter. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be more than happy to send those to our policy director as well on how be sending out a poll / consensus through our newsletter and on our socials. So please make sure to keep an eye out for that. We're in the process of determining really how we can get the public involved. So please, yes, akin to an open forum, basically. So if we do have any virtual town halls or anything as of that nature, we will make sure to communicate to that public.
Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Lloyd. We really appreciate that. It's a very thorough explanations, and as I said before, we look forward to, hearing correspondence from the Congressman's office. Okay. All right,
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Is there anyone here from Comptroller Scott Stringer's office? Normally that was Victor, but I know Victor has moved on, so I don't know if anybody, I know he's been replaced, but I don't remember the person's name. Is anybody here from Comptroller Scott Stringer's office? Yes, no? Okay. What about the Mayor's Community Affairs Unit? Is Miguel Rondon available? No? Okay, so that then ends the elected officials representatives report. And so now we get to hear from the Bronx Borough President. And so Miss Alexis Ruiz, who always brings us greetings from Bronx Borough President, is here to do as such. So good evening, Alexis. How are you doing?
Hi, good evening, Dr. Burke. I'm doing well. I hope that you're doing well. Good evening, everyone. I want to say thank you first and foremost to Community Board 12 for all of the work that you do and that you have done this past year. Please have a great and safe summer. As for new appointments, please expect a letter in the mail towards the ending of this month with the determination. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to email me. I'm going to place that information in the chat. And thank you again, as always. I'll be here for the remainder of the meeting.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Alexis. We appreciate the work that you do and bringing us greetings from our borough president. So again, thank you and have a fantastic summer as well to you. So we're moving right along. And so now we get into my report. So I'm getting ready to share my screen and I'm going to go over my report. I'm going to be kind of brief because it was sent out already. So I'm not going to sit here and read the entire thing, and I never really do. So I'm just going to gloss over some items that are very important. So again, most of you have already seen this that are on the email list. So the one thing that I do want to do is I want to congratulate Mr. Tobola Crown being elected as the new president of the 47th Precinct Community Council. And I also want to thank Miss Pamela Hamilton Johnson, who of course is the outgoing president of the Precinct Community Council as well. As it pertains to the Discipline Committee, I had an opportunity to talk with representatives from the Borough President's Office just to get a little bit of guidance as to what needs to happen now that it's been approved. And so one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to have a 3-panel discipline committee, which is similar to what they have at the Borough President's Office. And so we have a chair and we have 2 committee members. So the chair is going to be Attorney Harry Singh. And of course, the 2 committee members are Ms. Beatrice Cornell and Mr. Carl Lanzano. So again, though their responsibilities mirror that of the Borough President's Office. So again, that has been done. one of the things that I need to point out to you is that upon discussion, I think some of the rules have been illustrated in your community board handbook, how to go about filing any issues or concerns that you may have against any community board member, whether it be lodged by a board member against a board member, whether it be a member of the public, and or a non-union employee of the community board can do this. I think one of the things that we've requested is that we actually have an information session. And so that was agreed to. So it's just now a matter of working out the logistics so that people, if you have any questions, and if you don't have the community board handbook, which of course explains everything, then you can get it there. The only other things I'm going to mention, everything else I'm going to mention in passing, simply because of the fact that it's available on the committee chair's reports. The budget consultation process is going to be beginning soon. So I'm certain that our district manager is going to probably mention that at some point. So I'm going to defer, but that's going to be beginning soon. So if you have any ideas or input, then I ask that you convey that as such. As has been stated numerously by the speaker and the other elected officials, as of today, or excuse me, midnight tonight, the emergency mandate for virtual meetings ceases to exist. So as of 12:01 a.m. this morning, we are required to meet in person. Now, you heard the speaker state that we may be able to amend that. And so again, I think the entire situation is fluid based on what we heard from the Borough Service Cabinet this morning. And so again, I just want to report that out. Ideally, what was reported is that they want everybody to, at least board members at a bare minimum, to meet in person in September. I think, and again, I don't know if our district manager is going to mention this, but based on the conversation that was had with the borough president's office today, is that our upcoming elections, you have to be here in person. But again, all of that is fluid right now. And so again, we're trying to work out the best ways. And so I think the borough president's office stated that they will be giving, some guidance in the coming days and weeks ahead. So I ask that you stay tuned for that, and we can move forward. Again, it's already been mentioned by several of our electeds at our borough board meeting about the rental assistance from COVID. So I'm not going to mention that because they've given you plenty of information on that. One of the questions that I asked, and the speaker mentioned this in his comments to us, was, of course, the rate of vaccination in the Bronx and in particular in our neighborhoods. And so if you look at where we are as a borough as a whole, only 46% of the Bronx is vaccinated, fully vaccinated. That's what 2 doses was considered 2 doses, versus the citywide rate of 55%. And in particular, in zip codes 10466, which comprises Edenwald, only 33.74% those residents are vaccinated. And if you compare 10470, which is the Wakefield Woodlawn section, which has the best vaccination rate, and even it is at 44.89%. So as I've been doing for a number of months, I've been putting the vaccination information in my monthly reports, because what I'm hoping is that either you click on the links if you have electronic access, but even those that don't, you can read it and have either your children or grandchildren help you with that. What I've also done was I've also included the names and addresses of all the providers that are providing vaccinations, as well as the centers that, of course, Speaker Hasty as well as Councilman Raleigh has set up for us. So I say all of that to say that in order, I think one of the caveats, of course, to everybody meeting, of course, in person, is that everybody's vaccinated. Now, I know that, some of us are, but I ask you that if you can tolerate the vaccine, please, please, please get vaccinated because it is critical to eliminating any variants. In particular, the Delta variant, as you've heard, is the most virulent of SARS-CoV-2. So please get vaccinated. I think the vaccines are at least 95% effective against all variants, according to the literature that I've seen. So please, board members, please, community, and please, Bronx, get yourselves vaccinated. So with that, I am done, and we're moving right along to the district manager's report. So George, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. As you all remember, I will not be reading my report, so I really don't have much to add. Please read the report. And if you have any questions, if you read it tonight or read it tomorrow, just reach out to me and I have no problem answering it. Dr. Burke raised the issue of 4747 Bronx Boulevard. Eric Paulino from DHS, the Department of Homeless Services, had reached out yesterday in an email to us stating that on May 27th, DHS communicated with clients to prepare them for the return to congregant shelters. And he was writing to tell us about, what's the name of it? Anna's Place, which is at 4380 Bronx Boulevard. That's right on the corner of 238th Street or Nereid Avenue. But I had inquired about 4747. His response, which came right before this meeting, was that they just began the moves and will exit the COVID D-density hotels by the end of July. I will definitely update you as soon as I have a more definitive timeline for 4747. Listen, if it's the end of July, that is great news for us as a community. It is an indication that it is a temporary structure. But, you know, once I hear back with a definitive date as to what the plan is regarding 4747, but again, my understanding from his email is that it will, all these D-density hotels, which is what 4747 was, will be empty by the end of July. So that is great news for us as a community. We should all be very happy about that. But like I said, as we solidify a date, we will definitely be reaching out and let community members know. And that's all I have to say. Have a good night, everyone, and a safe summer.
So thank you, George. And let me just briefly say that, you know, this is, again, what happens when we collectively get together. So, you know, again, you know the history of this particular property, and, you know, district manager helped us craft a letter with myself and our elected officials, and we were able to put pressure, and we constantly put pressure, and that's another win. So if you look at we've been winning. You know, if you look at that, if you look at what happened with Edson Avenue and the BSA variants, and you also look at what happened with Pear Tree, you know, they're small, but they're a win. And that's why I said transformation to greatness. And so we are what we say we are. We're greatness personified, board members and community. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody involved who is making this happen. When we get together and we form that fist, we're very powerful. And I want to say thank you to George for, you know, helping us facilitate that and moving us forward with that, and everybody who else was involved, our electeds and all the community members of Athens as well. Okay. So moving forward, I want to ask for prayers. So we're gonna, you know, we're supposed to approve the board minutes and we're supposed to have a financial report. But without saying too much, I'm going to ask for prayers for both Ms. Borsati, and I'm going to ask for prayers for Tolene. You know, like I said, I know that Tolene said she's going to try to get on tonight, but I told her not to. And I'm not going to disclose anything, but I'm just going to ask that you please offer prayers for both Ms. Borsati as well as Tolene. And to that, we're going to move right along into our special presentation. So I think the director of the Department of Transportation is here. I know that I've seen him here, Mr. Lopez. So, Mr. Lopez, welcome to Community Board 12. We're moving right along here. So, welcome to Community Board 12 again, I should say, and we look forward to seeing your presentation.
And good evening, Dr. Burke, and good evening, members of Community Board 12. My name is Navarro Lopez. I'm the Bronx Borough Commissioner for the New York City Department of Transportation. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Dr. Burke, for accommodating us and making fitting us into this very busy schedule. I know that the board has a lot of business before the end of the summer, but I do appreciate you making the time to allow us to present. We're here tonight to talk about two very important projects that DOT is looking to implement later this summer in Board 12, which is why it was really important for us to be able to be here tonight to sort of present to the community and to start the outreach process to talk to all meaningful stakeholders. The two presentations, which will be given by our Bikes and Greenways unit, involve safety improvements, a bike lane on East Chester Road, and a second safety improvement along Bronx Boulevard, East 233rd between Bronx Boulevard and Webster, and then Webster Avenue from East 233rd up to the county line. So before we begin, I just want to introduce the members of my colleagues from New York City DOT, Sean Macias and Olgan Alcidi from the New York City's Bike and Greenway unit at New York City DOT. I also want to acknowledge Matt Arancio, Teresa Cruz, and Holly Malone, who all work with me at the Bronx Borough Commissioner's Office. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sean. We're going to talk about these two projects. And actually, in way of background, I just want to mention that the reason for our very ambitious schedule this year is twofold. One, as many of you are aware, later this summer, DOT is going to be beginning a e-scooter pilot in the East Bronx, which will encompass all of Community Board 12. In addition to that, Mayor de Blasio earlier this summer made an announcement about improving bike safety throughout the city and singled out a couple of corridors in the Bronx, including the ones that I mentioned, as areas that we're going to be looking for improving street safety. So this is part of a very ambitious set of projects that we're looking to implement in order to improve safety for all users of the road. So I just ask that you give us your full attention, and then once the presentation, we'll go through one presentation and then have questions about that presentation, and then go and give the second presentation. So Sean, I'm going to hand it off to you, and then we'll be here for the rest of the evening to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Navarro, and thank you everybody for allowing us to share our work with you here tonight. I'm actually going to pass it over to Olguin, and she's going to start with the first presentation. So please, Olguin, take it away.
Sure. And I'm just going to share my screen here. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yep.
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Olguin Alcide. I'm a senior project manager at the New York City DOT. And tonight I'll be discussing Bronx River Greenway connections on East 233rd Street, Webster Avenue, and Bronx Boulevard. So during tonight's presentation, I'll be covering some background about the project area before moving on to our proposal for each corridor. And then at the very end of the presentation, I'll summarize what we've covered for comments. For those who are not so familiar with the New York City Department of Transportation, our agency works towards providing safe, efficient transportation on city streets. This includes managing streets and highways, as well as bridges, sidewalks, signals, and the Staten Island Ferry. Even more specifically, the New York City DOT Bicycle Unit is responsible for building the citywide on-street bicycle network to respond to growing bike ridership. But our designs, however, are developed to improve safety for all road users, including pedestrians, motorists, and bus passengers. In 2019, we unveiled the Green Wave Plan, which took a closer look at fatalities across the city and found that nearly 90% of fatalities happen on streets without bike lanes. And so in response to those safety findings, the plan outlined a commitment to build 30 miles of protected bicycle lanes annually in order to rapidly expand the bike network. Street improvement projects, which include bike lanes, are low-cost projects which are designed and installed with DOT in-house resources. And this can include markings, signage, signal changes, as well as concrete installation. And these elements all work together to quickly improve safety and mobility. And our street improvement projects employ a number of design tools. This can include curb extensions, which provide additional space for pedestrians and slow-turning vehicles. High visibility crosswalks discourage vehicles from encroaching into pedestrian paths by creating better visibility, and also signal timing changes, which can improve traffic flow and eliminate conflicts between vehicles and crossing pedestrians or bikes. Protected bike lane design is something we'll see later on in the presentation and overall have been found to increase safety for all users. In a study of several locations citywide, we found a 15% drop in all crashes with injuries and a 21% drop in pedestrian injuries. And so protected bike lanes have been found to improve the street, not just for cyclists, but other users as well. And so to provide some background on the area we'll be discussing throughout our presentation, in 2006, the Bronx River Greenway Plan identified a gap in the Greenway between Shoelace Park and the Muskrat Cove as a priority project. And so federal funds were allocated to parks. And in 2013, the agency conducted traffic studies of Webster Avenue, East 233rd, and Bronx Boulevard. And from there, federal funds were later transferred to New York City DOT to provide an on-street bicycle connection. And in terms of the bike network in this area, in 2017, New York City DOT provided bike connections and access to the Shoelace Park and Williamsbridge on East 226th Street, East 225th Street, and East 222nd Street, which you see outlined in green on the map on the right. And this would be shortly followed by parks reconstruction efforts in Shoelace Park to provide new entrances and improve the Bronx River Greenway paths. And so the process of developing this project has been a very long and involved several agencies. But finally, in 2020, we had the opportunity to formally begin the project development and outreach process for the connections that are highlighted in blue on the map. And this would work to close that gap first identified in the Bronx River Greenway Plan. And so the gap in the Bronx River Greenway can be broken down into three main corridors. Webster Avenue, the first line you see on the map, which currently lacks bicycle connections to Westchester County and the Bronx River Greenway at the Muskrat Cove entrance. East 233rd Street, the bridge, where we saw a lack of direct, safe pedestrian and bicycle crossings from the Woodlawn Station, which is identified on the map, and to the Montefiore Medical Center. And lastly, Bronx Boulevard, where we want to formalize the connection for cyclists to the Shoelace Park entrance. And so in providing the highlighted connections on Webster Avenue, East 233rd, and Bronx Boulevard, we would accomplish our project goals of closing a gap in the Bronx River Greenway, but also work to provide safe bicycle and pedestrian access to both Muskrat Cove and Shoelace Park, as well as improve access to the Woodlawn Station, and finally establish bicycle connections to Westchester County. Looking at the existing conditions along Webster Avenue, that first corridor that we identified, we collected data to understand the traffic patterns on this corridor to facilitate our design. And generally, we found that vehicle volumes were low across the corridor, with volumes decreasing on the approach to the Bronx River Parkway, where many vehicles are exiting to access the highway. And this is also the location of the Muskrat Cove and Bronx River Greenway entrances, and serves as an access point for pedestrians going to Woodlawn Station. And there are also 3 bus stops along this corridor which serve the BX16. And you can see some of those elements, including the station entrance and that bus stop in the top right photo. And so currently the design along Webster Avenue includes non-standard lane widths where parking and the travel lanes currently lack markings, as you see in the top example. These 4 lanes of traffic also create long pedestrian crossing distances at the intersections. And most notably, there's a lack of east-west crossings for pedestrians between the Bronx River Parkway Muskrat Cove entrance and the northernmost limits of the project corridor at East 240th Street. And so in our proposed, we would look to provide bicycle connections to Muskrat Cove with a 2-way parking protected bike path on the east curb in which you see here. And that would be between 233rd Street and 240th. And this would involve establishing 1 lane in each direction, which would also allow us to standardize the lane widths and discouraging speeding along a corridor that currently has low through traffic. We would also look to improve bus operations at some of those stops that we mentioned along the corridor by allowing faster pickup and drop off at new bus boarding islands in the floating parking that you see on the image. And parking would be maintained on both sides of the street along the corridor. Here on the left, we have a top-down view of the existing conditions at the Bronx River Parkway and Muskrat Cove entrance. Currently, where you see that turn bay on the approach to the entrance, there's a right turn on red for northbound vehicles accessing the on-ramp, which makes it difficult for pedestrians to cross. And so in order to provide safe access for cyclists through this intersection and also provide that crossing for pedestrians, we would look to improve the signal timing at this intersection and provide a leading pedestrian interval. And so in that time, cyclists and pedestrians are given the green before vehicles to proceed without conflict. And also with our changes to the conditions along the corridor, we would look to propose a shift of the existing BX16 bus stop from the south side of the intersection to the northeast corner with a new bus boarding island that you would see in the proposed conditions. And so cyclists traveling on Webster Avenue will continue the connection to Shoelace Park using the East 233rd Street Bridge between Webster Avenue and Bronx Boulevard. Currently, the lane widths in this segment are also non-standard, and there are long or absent pedestrian crossings along this corridor. So in our proposed design, we would consolidate those 2 separate left turn bays into 1 and utilize that extra space on the west curb to create a 2-way path protected by vertical elements between Webster Avenue and Bronx Boulevard, so that middle section between the 2 other corridors. And so we would also include a Zikla bus boarding island for the mid-block bus stop at this location. These islands utilize more temporary materials suitable for the underlying bridge structure, but function similar to the bus boarding islands proposed on Webster Avenue by improving passenger pickup and drop-off. Specifically at the intersection of East 233rd Street and Bronx Boulevard further east, there's currently no western crosswalk for pedestrian accessing the Woodlawn Station or Montefiore Medical, as you can see in this photo here. As a result, we observed many pedestrians crossing mid-block through bridge traffic. And so in order to eliminate this condition and to provide safer connections for pedestrians attempting to access those stations or the bus stops, and for cyclists continuing further south to Shoelace Park, we would look to provide a new western crosswalk at this intersection. And this would involve establishing 1 southbound lane on the west side of Bronx Boulevard, where it is currently 2 ways, and in doing so, eliminate the double left turn, which precludes the western crosswalk. And this would also involve the inclusion of an actuated pedestrian signal corresponding to that new crosswalk, where the bridge traffic would be prioritized in the signal phasing until the arrival of a pedestrian or a cyclist is indicated by the push of a button made accessible at the new crosswalk. To provide a closer look at Bronx Boulevard, the diagram on the left shows the existing vehicle and pedestrian movements in black. And so currently, cyclists and pedestrians are unable to cross on the west side of Bronx Boulevard due to the 2-way traffic and resulting dual northbound lefts across that intersection. And so in order to improve that condition and to provide access for cyclists and pedestrians, we would convert the west side of Bronx Boulevard to 1-way southbound, where it's currently 2-way. And so in doing so, we would also provide angled parking between East 233rd Street and the Bronx River on-ramp to formalize the new alignment. Vehicles parking north of the parkway who are not necessarily accessing the highway would be provided an exit south of the ramp, or would go from one-way northbound to two-way, shown in blue, in the blue lines, and they would be able to exit at the 229th Street intersection. And finally, just to summarize everything we covered in today's presentation, this project would work to provide connections to Westchester, the Bronx River Greenway, and the Shoelace Park with a two-way parking protected bike path on Webster Avenue and East 233rd Street. We would also work to provide safe bicycle and pedestrian access to those destinations with signal timing improvements at Webster Avenue and Bronx River Parkway, East 233rd and Bronx Boulevard, as well as proposed crossing at East 233rd Street and Bronx Boulevard and East 235th Street and Webster Avenue. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for that presentation. So, board members, do we have any questions regarding the presentation that we just saw? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, I guess, okay, I see one question. Yes, Dr. Robbins.
Oh, hi, I'm unmuted. I'm sorry. I think it's a good idea to have the bicycle access and everything, but for me as a senior, my main thing is transporting my bike from home to get down into that park. That's a problem. So I don't know if there's any way you could get any of those bikes up there and you can rent the bike once you get to the park. Can you hear me?
Right. So in terms of, like, is the issue that you would like to have access to bike rental or?
Yes, because once you, I mean, I will have to, I'm not going to ride my bike from home to the park. I'm just not going to do that because I'm afraid of the streets. That's just my thing. I'm saying if I did take my bike to the park at one time, and when I took my bike to the park, it was just a whole big problem. So how they have those bike rentals there, you know, in other places, if it's going to be a bike path, maybe you should have that because there might be other people that are in the same situation as I am.
Right, that's a great idea. I know City Bike is slowly expanding northward in the Bronx. I think you make a good point. This would be a good location for one of those City Bike docks.
Right,
I'm not sure what
222nd Street is where I enter. I think
227.
is where I enter. 222nd, I think, is where I enter the park.
Okay, I'll jot
But
that down. I'll send it to our folks. I don't know if there's a timeline for the next expansion, but we'll certainly take that info back to them so that it's included in the next their next data collection.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Now I see where, as I said, normally this is for board members, but I see, but since Ms. Hudson is such a advocate for Shoelace Park, I'm going to allow Ms. Hudson to ask this question, and then we're going to move to the next presentation. So, Judy. Judy.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask my question. I just had a question. I know she said that they were going to eliminate. I think was it on Bronx Boulevard where they said it's 2 lanes going south, but they're going to make it 1 lane. Was that on Bronx Boulevard? Where was that?
So to clarify, currently Bronx Boulevard is 2-way on one side of the street, but it currently has 2 northbound movements happening at the same time on each side of the intersections. There's only 1-way southbound, one direction.
Right. So what we're trying to do is just normalize that a little bit by combining those 2 north movements to the Bronx Boulevard that's on the right side here. That's closer to the medical center. And by doing that, we're able to get that pedestrian crossing highlighted by that doesn't exist now, that we'll be able to insert in the future, where that yellow line is. If you could highlight that for her with your cursor, Ogwin, that'd be great. Right, that crossing there doesn't exist, and by combining those two movements, we're able to add a pedestrian crossing there so that folks who are using the bus and the rail station can cross safely.
So when you say two-way on Bronx Boulevard, you mean from 233rd going all the way to 241st, because there's not a two-way on Bronx Boulevard from like Gun Hill all the way to 233rd. That's only one way.
Right. So this would just be from what we would refer to the existing two-way between 233rd Street and the Bronx River on-ramp. So just for that short stretch, it's currently two-way, and we would consolidate to one-way.
Okay. And also when they, the previous person talked about adding the bikes, I know that the Bronx River Alliance or someone else had said that they're planning to bring e-bikes up here, which I don't understand why they would want to just bring e-bikes. The rest of the city got the regular city bikes, but they're planning to bring e-bikes up here. So I would think that we would want the same city bikes that everybody has, that's the rest of the city. We don't want to be ostracized and only have e-bikes. So can you?
So I could, yes, Ms. Hudson, I can answer that question. And I was the person who earlier mentioned that. So City Bike is expanding in the Bronx, but unfortunately we will not be able to get to Community Board 12 under the current expansion contract. Right now, or rather I should say in 2018, 2019, New York City DOT, in accordance with LIFT, announced a $100 million expansion of the City Bike system in New York City. That expansion is what's allowing us to expand to the Bronx. And right now, the expansion only goes up to about the southern edge of Van Cortlandt Park. We don't have plans to go further because we don't have funding for further expansion. The expansion was not only in the Bronx, but it was also to finish Upper Manhattan and also to expand further in Brooklyn and Queens. So while $100 million was a lot of bikes, it was an additional 18,000 bikes that were added to the system. Those bikes had to be spread out amongst the other boroughs as well. So that is why we were not able to, under the phase 3 expansion that we're currently doing, extend it all the way up into Board 12. Our hope is that once we finish this current expansion, and we are right now scheduled to finish the current round of expansion in 2024, we hope that by then we'll have identified funding that will allow us to continue expanding further north and further east in the Bronx. But right now there are no plans until we finish this current round of expansion. And the reason it's being done this way is that the bike fare system has to be a contiguous network, meaning that if I live near a docking station and I go someplace else, there needs to be a dock that I can go to. So if you have isolated pockets of City Bike throughout the city, the system then doesn't work, because what will end up happening is you'll pick up a bike where you live, but then you won't have a bike dock where you could drop it off. So that explains partially the slow incremental approach that we're taking, where we're going really community board by community board. So last year we, in the Bronx anyways, we expanded from community boards 1 to 4. This year we are expanding in community boards 5 and 7. And either next year or in 2023, we plan to expand to community board 6 and the southern portion of 8. And that's unfortunately that's how far the funding we have takes us. But again, once that's finished, I hope that by then we will have identified funding for a phase 4, which then will allow us to expand. In the meantime, since that expansion is far off, separate from City Bike, we at DOT announced a pilot program for e-scooters. And this e-scooter pilot is what I mentioned earlier. The genesis of this e-scooter pilot was a law that the City Council passed last year, requiring the Department of Transportation to conduct a pilot program to explore and see if e-scooters could be used safely and effectively in New York City. So because of that law, earlier this year in February, we announced that the East Bronx would be the pilot area. And by the East Bronx, I mean all the communities east of the Bronx River and Woodlawn. And starting later this year, later this summer, I should say, probably sometime in early to mid-July, we will be beginning to roll out the e-scooters in the north half of the East Bronx. So everything north of Tremont Avenue will be part of phase 1 of the pilot program. There will be about 3,000 e-scooters as part of the pilot program. And then if it goes well, meaning that it's safe, the companies are able to protect not just the users of these scooters, but also pedestrians, then we will expand the pilot into the phase 2 area. And that is why right now there is this sort of these two different systems that seem to be operating separately. But ideally, the agency would prefer to be able to expand City Bike into more neighborhoods. And we hope that
So if you are able to
Okay,
expand it,
can I do this? I have
if
to
you
jump
are
in.
able to,
Excuse me, Judy, let me jump in because
Okay.
we have another presentation that we got to get to. So
Okay.
Mike, I would like to comment. I would like to comment, Chairman.
Judy, if you want to answer, I could give you my email in the chat, and if you want to
Okay.
send me an email, we can schedule a call and speak about this offline.
Okay.
Dr.
Burke,
I have
to make a comment.
I would like to chime in as the former chair of the Parks Department, if that deems feasible, Chairman.
So let's do this. I know Mr. Stricker wants to comment. I see George has his hand up. Guys, we gotta, like I said, we can have a long meeting or a short meeting. So if you want to comment, but you comment, then George and Mr. Stricker, and we move on to the next because they have another 30 slides to do. And then we still have business to get to, all right? So ask your question, Mr. Morris.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Burke. So it's not a question; it's just a point of talk. So as the former chairman, I can extensively talk on this because I did extensive work with the DOT, and that portion near Shoelace Park, it was the most feasible after extensive meetings and discussions as far as what can be done. With that being said, we spoke on, and we are fully in touch with the disenfranchisement of our community board as far as City Bikes and other entities. As far as getting e-bikes, the thought process behind that would be that we wanted to actually bring as many entities as possible for competition, so that this way we how would I say just have more options for our community. So yes, we do acknowledge the disenfranchisement of our community where City Bikes has not been accessible, but we also invite other companies as well, so that this way, we have other options and make our community more inviting, or optional.
George?
And I just want to add a quick point of clarification. The pilot isn't e-bikes. It's e-scooters, and by e-scooters, I mean the sort of stand-up scooters that you see a lot of folks using right now. These are electric e-scooters. Under the terms of the pilot, these motorized e-scooters can only go up to 15 miles an hour in certain areas, but it's only e-scooters. It's not e-bikes. So I just wanted to clarify that.
George?
Thank you. I was just concerned, you said from 233rd Street to the on-ramp of the Bronx River Parkway, which is going northbound, you're only making that a one-way?
Correct. That would be from existing two-way to one-way southbound. So you would still have access to the Parkway. You would just need to use the east side if you're going north.
So if I'm coming down Bronx Boulevard, because it does split, one closest to the school and the hospital, I can still make that left turn and then go to the Parkway and get onto the Parkway northbound. And if I'm coming from 233rd, I'll be able to make that right turn onto Bronx Boulevard to still get the Parkway northbound.
Correct. You can still access the Parkway. Essentially,
Okay.
it's just, yeah, right.
The only thing that I'll say is I would imagine that you're studying the traffic light, because the traffic light closest to the hospital is a very short light.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we worked with our signal timing unit on this configuration to make sure that we could provide the pedestrian crossing, but also maintain traffic across the bridge. And so that's something that we've worked out with them.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Michael, may I talk now?
Yeah, of course you can, Mr. Stricker.
I just want to congratulate DOT on the Bronx River Parkway exit at Webster. Back many, many moons ago, when they were rebuilding the Gun Hill Road Bridge over the Metro North in the Parkway, and they were diverting the cars off at 233rd Street, I had a fight to get that light put there. Because they weren't going to put a light there, and you were quadrupling the volume of traffic getting off there. Finally, the contractor who was doing the bridge said that he would put the light up, and DOT said it must come down after the bridge was done. Well, the bridge is done about 12 years already, and the light's still there. It works very well and can be approved. From what you said, it can be approved, but I thank you for that light. You saved a lot of injuries.
Glad to hear that.
Well,
Thank you,
so
Carl.
much,
Thank you very much.
Mr. Stricker. So, Mr. Lopez, we are ready for your next presentation.
Great. So our next presentation is for Eastchester Road from Laconia to Westchester Avenue. This project is within Community Boards 11 and 12. We already met with Community Board 11, so now this portion of the presentation is for Community Board 12. So I'm going to turn it over again to the to the Bikes and Greenways team to give the presentation.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to be discussing a bicycling expansion in the East Bronx on Eastchester Road, Waters Place, as well as other connections. Again, throughout this presentation, I'm going to be covering some background and the proposal, as well as the route details, and then summarize at the very end. To provide an overview of our goals for this area and this project, this would work to build a robust on-street bicycle network in CB 11 and 12, support an anticipated increase in scooter and bicycle ridership in the East Bronx, improve road safety for all road users, and lastly, we hope to create new connections to key destinations in this area, which includes hospitals as well as parks and their connecting greenways and bike paths. So there is some interest in improving bike and scooter access in this part of the East Bronx. So in 2019, we saw an increase in daily commuting trips across the city, and more recently, an anticipated increase in scooter ridership on commercial streets with our e-scooter pilot program that Navarro mentioned. And so starting this year, 6,000 scooters would be deployed in the East Bronx pilot zone, which is identified on the map on the right. And this would begin with projects in the Northeast Bronx. However, there are a number of bike projects to be proposed in the future as part of this pilot program. Future proposals include Allerton Avenue, White Plains Road, and East 222nd Street, among others. Tonight, we'll only be focusing on and presenting the design for East Chester Road within CB12. And again, this is something we spoke on briefly before. East Chester Road also comes out of our response to the commitment to expand the citywide protected bike lane network from that Green Wave plan. Additionally, we'll also see protected bike lanes in this design, and that also speaks to our ideas about safety and protected bike lanes and how it can improve the conditions for all users. And so when selecting a route for this area, we looked at several factors. Namely, we looked to make a continuous north-south connection that would close the gaps in the existing bike network that you see here, as well as provide access to otherwise difficult to reach destinations such as Pelham Bay Park. East Chester Road also overlaps with many key destinations in the neighborhood, including Bronx Park, Williamsbridge, as well as multiple schools and hospitals. And so we would look to make those connections as well. To go a little bit more into the background of the existing network in this area, in 2009, we began developing the network in the East Bronx by installing standard bike lanes on Allerton Avenue. In the subsequent years between 2010 and 2017, we would return to build out the bike network that you see here in blue, with additional standard lane connections and improvements to wide parking lanes on Laconia Avenue, East 233rd Street, Bronxwood Avenue, and Burke Avenue. And these past projects all work together to provide a robust bike network in this part of the East Bronx, but finally brings us to this year. We're proposing to respond to the expected increase in scooter ridership in this area by developing connections to the existing network on East Chester Road. And in terms of design, there are three treatments available in our toolkit for cyclists, which provide bicycle facilities on streets with varying widths and uses. Shadow markings, which guide cyclists through an area to share the roadway with motorists. Our standard bicycle lanes, which provide a greater degree of separation from vehicles by providing dedicated striped space in the roadway. And lastly, protected bike lanes, which are completely separate and separate cyclists from the through traffic with the use of protective elements or floating parking, which you can see in this example photo. To provide a broader look at the limits of our proposal, the routes highlighted here in purple would work to address our previously mentioned goals of closing gaps in the existing East Bronx network, providing new connections to hospitals and other healthcare facilities, as well as connecting cyclists to the Bronx River, Mushaloo Pelham, and the Hutchinson River Greenways. The proposed routes would include lanes on East Chester Road, Waters Place, Burke Avenue, and Morris Park Avenue, and would overall work to increase safety for all road users in this area. Starting with the first major segment of our proposal on this map, and this is a section that would be within CB12, East Chester Road between Laconia Avenue and Pelham Parkway, where currently we have 2 travel lanes in each direction, with the outermost travel lanes currently unmarked and shared with the curbside parking. But then in our proposed condition, we would look to formalize some of the markings for the through traffic and establish 1 travel lane in each direction and create standard width travel and parking lanes. We would then repurpose the space that we get from those 2 travel lanes to provide dedicated space for cyclists and to also provide dedicated left turn bays. This would look similar to the bottom right image, where the median will be painted until the start of the turn lane on the approach to the intersection. And so the standard bike lanes on this stretch would connect cyclists to the existing network and to the Mushaloo Pelham Greenway further south along the corridor. Further south on East Chester Road, between Pelham Parkway and Pelham Parkway South, the existing conditions change somewhat. Currently, there are 2 travel lanes in each direction with additional turn lanes. And so in our proposal, we would consolidate the 3 lanes to 2 lanes, 1 in each direction with the turn lanes maintained. And the new alignment would match the cross sections for the northern segments, which we showed on the previous slides, and repurpose the additional travel lane to provide curbside painted bike lanes, similar to what you see here on Southern Boulevard in the Bronx. Again, heading further south on Eastchester Road, the existing conditions start to look more like what we saw further north, where we currently have 2 travel lanes in each direction. So in this case, however, we would look to establish 1 northbound travel lane, but maintain the existing southbound lanes and use the extra space to provide dedicated space for cyclists. And in doing so, we've maintained the parking and the curb access for some of the various land uses that we saw along the west curb. Further south, again, between Sackett Avenue and Waters Place, the existing conditions are the same, and we would also maintain 2 southbound travel lanes and establish 1 northbound lane in our proposed. However, the roadway alignment does change as Eastchester Road splits off at this location, and so we're able to provide a safe connection from the standard lanes to the 2-way path along the edge condition available to us on the east curb at this location. Cyclists would continue onto Waters Place, where currently the existing conditions match Eastchester Road. And in the pros, we would create that 2-way parking protected bike path. And something to note is that there are bus stops along Waters Place as well as Eastchester Road, and those stops would be maintained. However, we would also include new bus boarding islands at those existing stops. And then next, in terms of providing connections to the existing bike network on Burke Avenue, where currently there are no bike facilities on that section between East Gun Hill Road and Eastchester Road, we would look to fill that gap in the network and provide shared lane markings throughout this area. And that would allow cyclists to connect to the Bronx River Greenway and Bronx Park. Further west of that, continuing on, where currently we have wide parking lanes, we would upgrade the conditions here to provide standard width parking lanes and also provide dedicated space for cyclists with standard bike lanes. Further south, in that section south of the Pelham Parkway, on Morris Park Avenue, again, we have a current gap in the existing bike network from Newport Avenue to Eastchester Road, and we would look to, from where we have the existing conditions, provide cyclists, or guide cyclists through this area with shared lane markings. And just so to provide an overview of the design across the entire project, the map here shows the limits of the protected, standard, and shared bike lane facilities to be included on each corridor, which you can see highlighted in purple for shared lane markings, green for the protected segments, and blue for the conventional bike lane segments. So pedestrian improvements would be included across the corridor with shorter crossing distances and the inclusion of high visibility crosswalks. However, new pedestrian spaces would also be included in our design at the shown locations along Eastchester Road and Waters Place, which you see here in blue and yellow, at locations where the proposed islands overlap with crosswalks. They also work to provide access for bus passengers, but also serve as refuge for pedestrians crossing the street. And so those conditions would also provide pedestrian improvements. In terms of timeline for this project, our outreach to both CBs 11 and 12 would potentially be followed by a 2-phase implementation. The proposed traffic calming and inclusion of standard bike lane on Eastchester Road between Laconia Avenue and Pelham Parkway, as well as the connections to the existing lanes on Burke Avenue, would be planned for 2021 implementation. The areas south of Pelham Parkway, which require additional resources and further study, would come in 2022. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Alcee. Did I say that correct? Alcee is your last name?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you for that presentation. So I see hands up. So our district manager was first to the draw. So George, the floor is yours.
Hey, Alcides. My question is in regards to East Chester Road and right off Boston Road. We have a firehouse, and it's difficult because it's right in the middle of a residential neighborhood. It's right across the street from East Chester Gardens. So parking is already difficult. The idea that it looked like to me that you were creating the protected bike lane there. So that makes it one lane, and which means that pedestrians or the homeowners there who already have to contend with the firehouse on parking, how do you solve that? Because I don't see the firehouse being cooperative. We have challenges where we are on 229th Street, and they're not cooperative there with the EMS folks.
Right. So just to clarify, we are aware of the conflicts along the curb when it comes to FDNY and that sort of thing. But something to note is that the segments you're referring to near Boston Road, we would maintain the parking on each side of the street. We're not providing protected by a two-way path in this condition. We would just provide the standard bicycle lanes with markings. And so that wouldn't necessarily have an impact to the curb access or the parking.
All right. But creating the bike lane and the double parking would be a problem.
I mean, could be an issue. I mean, I think double parking is something that, we always have to contend with. But something to note is that I think the turn lane in this condition also does improve vehicle movement and traffic flow through the area.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Bond?
Yes, good evening. My question is really is concerning the flow of traffic. When you have those bus boarding areas, and wouldn't that inhibit the flow of traffic once the bus has to stop, because now it's only one way for each side of the traffic? So when you have the bus boarding, then traffic comes to a halt so that you can have the passengers on and off safely. So
right.
How does that work?
Right. So, yes, when the buses would be stopped at the bus boarding island, they would temporarily block the traffic behind them. But we found that including bus boarding island can improve the speeds of the buses or how long they're spending at the stop by not requiring them to pull fully into the curb. Rather, they can just stop and board passengers quickly and continue on. So find that it does reduce idling and that sort of issue.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's also important to note that the islands also improve ADA access to our buses, because kneeling buses are designed to meet the curb, and when buses don't fully pull to the curb, that feature is lost. So what creating these islands do, it creates a situation where the buses always meet the curb, and it always makes it easy for the kneeling bus to kneel, or for when someone in a wheelchair has to get onto the bus, it becomes easier. And that also, I don't want to, ignore the improvements of bus efficiency, but I also want to, point out that this is also a benefit that helps ADA accessibility for New York City buses.
Thank you. Ms. Hayes?
Good evening. So my first question is, with the likelihood of the increase in ridership, is there going to be an increase in rider safety education? For me, often it just feels very dangerous. They're not riding, people and cyclists are not riding respectfully. And so there's many accidents. I know your studies say otherwise, but in my experience, that's what I've experienced. And then I also just wanted to piggyback off of George. I live near Boston Road in East Chester, and so traffic there is really bad. Parking here is very, very bad. And so I'm just curious, as you do, if you were to install it, would there be some type of traffic agent there to make sure that traffic is flowing, that people are safe, because it is a concern for me and my neighborhood? Thank you.
So I can take that one. So as we install projects, we definitely monitor as they go in. So we will, as things are changing on the street, we'll always be there, making sure that it's flowing safely and efficiently. And then to your first point, there will be outreach associated with the rollout of the scooters. And then also, right now there's really no designated place for bikes on the street, so they're kind of just everywhere. Our hope and generally what we see happen is when there is a dedicated space for bikes to travel, they will funnel to that space. And as a pedestrian or as a motorist, when you encounter a bike, it's more intuitive where you're going to find them because the street is just a little better organized. So those are some of the that's what we've seen in other parts of the city when we install lanes.
Okay, so again,
Mike, I'm sorry, you can't see me raise my hand, Mike. I'm sorry.
Mr. Stricker?
May I? Yes. I just want to say the question on the bus bulbs, as we called them when I helped originally design those bus bulbs in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the first place we put them was on Boston Road by Sutton Boulevard, 174th Street, and I forget the other street. And they work. Bus traffic flows faster, and nobody cuts around the bus loading while he's loading the bus. And also when you don't have an L structure, the bus bulb comes off the curb out, and nobody can go around the rear end of the bus is not sticking out, which causes a hazard because people park in the bus stop. Bus stop bulbs, believe it or not, although they look like they delay traffic, they help to move it faster. That's all I have to say.
A clarification, Mr. Stricker.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Stricker. So if there are no other questions, I'm going to move along. So we'd like to thank the Department of Transportation. Hopefully next time we will have this at a committee meeting. And I know there were some problems scheduling that, but nonetheless, we appreciate you letting us know what you're going to do for Community Board 12 in particular, but also our surrounding community boards, and that we work in conjunction with them. So thank you very, very much. And if you would please.
Thank you, Chair Burke. And just to say, I want to again express my thanks on behalf of the agency for accommodating us tonight on your busy schedule. We will be posting both these presentations on our website. Once we do that, I will be emailing that to the district manager for distribution to the board. And please follow up any questions that you may have. And have a happy summer, everybody.
Not a problem. Thank you to you and your team for bringing that information to us. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Not a problem. Have a good evening.
Same to you.
So,
bye-bye.
Let's move on to the next portion, which of course are the committee recommendations. And so what I'm going to do is again share my screen one more time. And I'm going to ask the Land Use Committee. Now, we haven't called the roll yet. So with this vote, even though I would like unanimous consent, since we haven't called the roll, we need to do a roll call vote for the acceptance of the report. So what I've done, Mr. Stricker, is that I've put the minutes submitted by Attorney Singh up, so they're looking at the attendance as well as the discussion and the motion. So the recommendations are on the screen. So Mr. Stricker, take it away. Mr. Stricker.
Is this for the land use?
Yes, land use.
Okay, thank you. I got disconnected for phone went dead. We had a meeting. It was held on June 14th. Most of the members were present. We had one member excused, Keisha Lago Martin, and two unexcused members, Anthony Reed and Carl Lozano. We had two issues presented to the Land Use Committee for a vote to be taken tonight. One was 2875 Edson Avenue, which is a storage facility called Extra Space. And we advised the representatives that the extension of their variance will be approved upon the September completion of the adjacent sidewalk. That was part one. I like to vote separately on both ones, so this is part one of the report. Can we make a motion to accept that?
Well, let's make a motion to accept the report, and then we're gonna
Okay, then we'll split it down. That sounds
let's
good.
do it like this, Mr. Stricker, because we still got some other things to do. If you want to do it separately, then what I'm going to suggest is that we take a motion to accept the report first. We need to have a roll call because we need to see who's here. So
Okay.
Madam Secretary, then call a roll. Then I'm going to ask that you make a motion for unanimous consent on your recommendations. I'd rather do it that way.
That's fine with me, sir.
Okay, so I need a motion for
I'll
accepting
just
the
give what the
report.
second part was so they know. It's a hotel special permit with gyms, spas, massage parlors, and therapy. So that also was passed. But I would ask to have the meeting accepted, the report accepted, and then we can vote on the recommendations.
Right. So what we're going to do right now is, like I said, so we need a motion from the floor, Mr. Accept your report, and Madam Secretary is going to call a roll, and she's going to give the instructions as only Ms. Benitez can do. So
okay, she does well.
She does well, but we still need the motion to accept the report.
Well, who's going to get? I can't give the motion.
Well, I know, and I'm the chair of the board, so somebody from the floor needs to do it.
Make the motion.
Okay, so Ms. Benitez makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Denise Bond. So the motion has been moved and properly seconded. So barring any unreadiness, Madam Secretary?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have a quorum. So let me continue. Abdul Hassim. Aye. Judith Benitez, aye. Egeria Bennett.
Aye.
Sidney Blair.
Aye.
Thank you. Denise Bond.
Aye.
Ivan Boras. Ivan Boras. Ivan Boras. Paula Basati. Paula Basati.
She said aye. She said aye.
Thank you. Marlene Brown Allen. Aye. Did she say aye?
Yes, ma'am. She did.
Jerome Brown. Jerome Brown. Victor Brown.
Aye.
Deacon Edward Brown. Aye. Norbert Bryan. Norbert Bryan. Norbert Bryan. Katie Campbell. Sadie Campbell.
Said aye.
Said aye. Thank you. Joan Clark.
Aye.
Thank you. Beatrice Coronel.
Aye.
Tolene Dickerson is excused. Kevin Eichelberger.
Aye.
Alfredo Figueroa.
Aye.
Barbara Gibson.
Aye. Johnny Goff. Johnny Goff. Johnny Goff. Robert Hall. Aye. Lisa Hayes.
Aye.
John Isaac.
Aye.
Theodore James.
Aye.
Keisha Largo Martin is excused. Ifa Lass. Ifa Lass. Ifa Lass.
Ivan Boris. I was having connection issues. Here present.
Saying aye to the motion.
Yes, aye.
Thank you. Paul Anzano.
Aye.
Lucille Martin. Lucille Martin. Not present. Shanika Moore.
Aye.
Clinton Mike.
Aye.
Carmen Ortiz. Aye. Thank you, hon. Anthony Reed. Anthony Reed. Anthony Reed. Dr. Dina Robbins.
Aye.
Harry Singh.
Aye.
Paul Stricker.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Stricker, so my suggestion is let's do this with unanimous consent based on your recommendations. I'm going to put them back up on the screen so that everybody can see what your recommendations are. So you want to go over the recommendation for the first one, Mr. Stricker?
Yes, I would like to do that. And since there's going to be a separate vote for each, we advise the representatives for 28 75 Edson Avenue that we would approve the variance upon the completion of the adjacent sidewalk in September. Can I have a motion for the floor?
Well, hang on, Mr. Stricker. Let me make sure I understand properly. I thought that we were voting on the text amendments first. Do we need to vote on 2875 Edson Avenue?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So we're going to do this unanimously if we take that instead of going through a roll call vote. So I need a motion for unanimous consent.
I so moved. John Isaac, I so moved to make a motion for unanimous consent.
And of what? Edson Avenue or Edson Avenue?
Edson Avenue.
Okay. So a motion has been unanimously made that we accept the recommendation for 2875 Edson Avenue. Hearing no objections, motion passes. Let's do the city planning. Let's do the text amendments. And can you explain, Mr. Stricker, I need you to explain, I see what we have here, but just give, I know Alfredo is on the, but tell you what, let's do this, make this quick, because I know Alfredo gave an excellent presentation. For those of you that need some clarity, Alfredo gave an excellent presentation at the Land Use Committee meeting. So let's just, and so we're recommending that we approve the hotels and that we conditionally approve the gym, spas, and massage therapy. And again, I asked you that you look at that. Okay, guys, everybody, there are too many mics open, so I need people to mute their mics. So I need Mr. Trick, before we vote, I need a brief explanation, if you can.
Yeah, well, at the committee hearing, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, at the committee hearing, we discussed it. There was some reservation about the gym, spas, and massage therapy text amendment, but we had no issue with the hotel special permit. So we approved the hotel special permit, but we had a motion for the spa, the gyms, and the massage parlors to pass it provisionally, recommending that we see that we have to get more information from city planning on them. And so far, I don't think we got any more information from them. Because
Now,
if we didn't vote that way, they could go ahead and just approve it. So that's why we only told them provisionally we will approve it, but we need more information on the gym, spas, and massage.
Now, let me ask this question, and I'm going to ask our district manager to chime in right quick, because I think there could be a solution to this. If this is going to come up, I see Manny's here from city planning. This is going to come up, I would imagine, because it's in the ULEP process, it's going to come up at the next borough board meeting, I want to say, which is in July. And correct me if I'm wrong, George. Am I wrong on that? George? Oh.
I actually don't recall what Marisol was saying, if they're actually going to have a meeting in July, but they may.
I thought Madam Deputy said we were going to meet in person in July.
That's entirely up to them. I don't recall.
Okay. So in any event, what I think is happening is I think that this is going to come up in the ULEP process. And again, we have 60 days, and the 60 days, and I think that's why we were so upset, because we were kind of sort of forced to vote on it the way we did. I think that if we have another borough board meeting, which I found out we're not getting a break, we're meeting next month, then we can get more information. So I'm going to challenge the land use committee to get that. I see Manny's here. Manny, I need you to unmute yourself and provide a little bit of light on that, if we can get that information, because what can happen is that we can give a recommendation to me. We can do like I did last time and ask you for what you guys want to do. So Manny, give us a quick update.
Okay, first of all, what I recall from the meeting was what you had said, Dr. Burke, that there was a conditional approval on the gyms, spas, and massage therapy. Okay, that was exactly what happened there. And my colleague, Mr. Horstman, had mentioned that it's better for the board to approve with conditions, because the committee wanted to vote against it. Right. To approve with conditions, because that way we take it to the City Planning Commission that it was disapproved. The community board would have a list of reasons as to why you're opposed to you're conditionally approving this project. If you disapproved it, then there's no way to get that information to the Planning Commission or at the next level, the City Council.
So Manny, we get that. I guess my question to you is the following. We were talking about conditionally approving upon more information, and we're about to take a unanimous vote on this. So my question to you is that since this is going to come up at the Bronx Borough Board meeting at the next one, correct? Because it's got to go to the BP's office next.
Yes.
All right. So being that community board is still going to have a chance to vote on it, my question to you is the information that is requested, can you provide that to Mr. Strick or Mrs. Singh and that committee so they can review it, review the information and then recommend to me how we want to vote outside of conditionally? That way we could give a firm, instead of a conditional yes, a definite yes. That's my question to you.
Okay. Well, I understand your question. But I don't know what it is that the board wants more information on. So then I would need from the board something that I can actually look at and share with my agency in order for me to answer those questions.
Well, tell you what, let's do this. I think, guys, I see George shaking his head, and I think we were somewhat confused, and I think Alfredo, that's what Alfredo gave an explanation. So let's just go with this. We went with the conditional approval. So I think that we felt based on what you just stated, man, we feel good about that. So let's just go ahead and roll with that. So, Mr. Stricker, you can't make a motion, but I need a unanimous motion from the floor.
How are you wording this motion?
So what we want, Madam Secretary, is we want a unanimous motion from the floor that we approve conditionally approve the gym, spas, and massage therapy text amendment. We definitely approve the hotel text amendment, but we conditionally approve the gym, spas, and massage therapy text amendment.
Thank you.
So can I get that motion, please?
Make the motion to conditionally accept.
No. I need to know if this is going to be one vote.
Yes, ma'am. It's going to be one vote.
Second.
Someone has to make that motion.
Wait. Right. So it's going to be one vote. It's going to be one vote. So, Alfred, if you're going to make the motion, of which we appreciate, I need you to be a little bit more specific. So,
I make the motion to proceed with one vote for the EULA process to proceed. Yeah.
being that we approved the hotel tax amendment and conditionally approved the gym, spas, and massage therapy tax amendment. So
that's a traditional.
Right, that's conditional, yes. Right. So we have a unanimous motion and without any objections.
Any
So ordered.
recusals?
Ma'am?
Any recusals?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not a problem, Madam Secretary. So let's move on to old business, and we're going to turn the floor over to Mr. Clinton Mike, because this section we're dealing with executive officer nominations and rules. So, Mr. Mike, the floor is yours. Clinton?
Hey.
Yes, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Stand by a minute. All right. So we had a meeting of the outside. Maybe I should go with it. Anyway, we had a meeting of the nominating committee yesterday. The current nominating committee consists of myself, Theodore James, Marlene Brown Allen, Denise Bond, and Sydney Blair. Okay, what we discussed yesterday was we discussed the candidates that are seeking election for the 2021 Bronx Community Board 12 election. With that said, I received, well, between myself and George and Ursula, we received some but not all of the candidate profiles / bios for this upcoming election. We need to get those as soon as possible. We discussed that the election being moved to October, with nominations from the floor taking place in September of 2021 after the summer. Hold on. Yes, and we had discussions on hybrid voting. We had a discussion on hybrid voting for the October election, but as of today, with the open meetings law, we'll be going back in person. So we're waiting for more direction from the Borough President's Office, as Dr. Burke stated earlier, on how we are going to proceed with our October 20th election. And I think that's basically it. If anybody on the committee can remember anything else that we may have discussed briefly, the floor is yours. Other than that, that was it.
So I will, if I may, I will venture to say that one of the questions in mind was the actual voting process, which was questioned in different aspects and discussed amongst different board members. So what potentially what did transcribe was there were different ways that this election took place. And although we are in a quarantine and COVID and this pandemic, I will say that it was held to one's discretion. So with that being said, we didn't have many board members that actually voted. It was extended. The vote was actually extended so that this way we would have some type of quorum. And then when that actually happened, where we needed actual board members present, board members weren't present, and we reached out at that point in time. Now, this is not to say that things weren't held with validity. It's just to say that where does the accountability end and begin? So with that being said, what we potentially had was we had board members being called in to actually how would you say to actually have their vote counted. So I mean, in question is whether or not is that actually where's the validity in that? Are we actually just counting votes as they come, or are they actual votes? So just putting that out there, not trying to be adversarial or anything like that. I don't think anything underhanded actually took place. Just saying that, this is something that we should take into consideration.
Well,
we're moving. Sorry, Clint, you want to say something or you want? Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, good. We're moving forward.
I want to say something.
Ursula?
So this is Ursula. So I just want to clarify that this is not the first time that we have done that. This year, I would have been at Community Board 12 for 26 years. George has actually left the office, got in his car, drove to pick board members up because we needed a vote. We've done this throughout the entire 26 years that I've been there. And the only reason we called this time was so they vote could count. It was not that they didn't vote. We just want the vote to count. Throughout the years, we've done this. We've picked people up. We've called people, hey, I need this vote. I need this vote. That's all.
That's it.
And I totally agree with you, Ursula. Again, I want to reiterate, I don't think anything was underhanded. These times call for special measures. But I do want to take in consideration of if we're going to go from good to great, and as as we say, what level of accountability are we actually going to hold? That's all I'm saying. And again, we know that different circumstances call for different circumstances. I'm just putting out there that these are the things that actually transpired, and they're on full record. So again, it was deemed in certain opinions or perceptions that I was or people were wrong, and it was deemed also as a matter of opinion. I'm just putting it out there, posing the question, food for thought. Thank you.
I don't understand what you mean by accountability. Persons voted.
As a parliament,
Hang on. Everybody cannot. Clinton was going to respond. Then Ted had his hand up. So Clinton, go ahead.
I don't understand you questioning the accountability. People voted, and people were notified that if they did vote, they needed to show up to the meeting for their vote to count. That's it.
Mr. Clinton, you have done a phenomenal job. I'm saying again. So when we call a meeting and we're talking about accountability, and you're expected at a certain time, and you're not there at a certain time where people are reminding you. Now, mind you, I am one, and I want to make this clear. I am one that there are certain times where I need a reminder, right? So I am not bulletproof to what I am saying. What I am saying is, if we're going to hold this accountability, that we have set this precedent on this board within the last year or 2 years. Okay. So are we going to hold it with the iron clawed, or are we just going to pick and choose what is deemed acceptable or not acceptable? Where I'm going with this again. So again, there was accountability, and I'm not trying to drag this out. Board, I really am not. I don't think, again, this is my opinion, I don't think anything was done underhanded. What I am saying is that if we're going to go this route of accountability, which is the precedent that has been set, is what I'm saying is okay. Excuse me. What I am saying is how do you hold certain instances accountable and not others? So in that instance, members were not there, and then we wasted 45. I wouldn't say wasted, but we lasted 45 minutes in getting people to come into and being held accountable to their vote. That could have set, and I'm gonna put it out there, that could have set a whole different voting, a whole different vote. And that's the truth of the reality. If they didn't show up, a whole different vote could have potentially happened. And I'm glad this is being recorded, and I'm glad I'm saying this. That is the inevitable. Do I question it? No. Do I think something was underhanded? No. But listen.
I do.
Go ahead, George.
George, let me George, before you chime in, let me get I see Ted had his hand up and Denise Bond had her hand up. So let me hear what Denise has got to say.
Okay, I guess we're talking about the last election. That's not what I want to talk about.
Well, you had your hand up, so you want to talk about this or what?
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make a point that oh, go ahead, Clinton. I'm sorry.
I said what I said. I'm done.
Hang for a second, George, because Denise Bond had her hand up too. So can I get her in, and then you say something, George?
If I would like George to go ahead first, please.
You want George to go? Okay, so George, you first, and then Denise Bond.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, Ivan made a statement about the timing. So I went to our YouTube channel. We have a recording of our nominating committee. The meeting lasted 36 minutes and 42 seconds. So I don't know where he gets the 45 seconds. I don't think the 45 minutes. I also don't think it was a waste of time. We started an election We ended an election at a specific time. Several emails were shared with board members. Everybody was fully aware of what was going on. And then we just made sure in those 36 minutes of that meeting, which is probably one of the shortest meetings that we've had as a committee, that every vote was counted. So there's nothing nefarious there. But, you know, the implication of the things that you're raising, Ivan, you can't say that you're not raising the issue of accountability. We are being accountable. This is what every good governance group would want. We want every vote to count. One of the points that we made earlier today in a conversation was that the polls closed at 9 o'clock on Tuesday. If you got there at 9:15, you couldn't vote. Yet you also had a whole week of early voting. So again, we tried to do the right thing. This is not new to us. And I don't like the implication that, you know, we were doing something underhanded, you know, and the one thing, Ivan, we listened to you. You're going to be quiet right now.
Wow.
Yes. Hold on.
Wait. George is
one
talking.
person speaking.
I got this, George. George is talking first. Then we got, excuse me. George is talking first, and then we're going to have Denise Bond. All right. We are going by how we see this in order. All right. No one's talking over anybody.
Dr. Burke.
All right.
Dr. Burke.
Okay. So
Dr. Burke.
Denise Bond. George is still talking. George still has the floor. Okay.
The final thing that I will add is you have to be careful, and it's something that I didn't write in my report today, but I encourage you all to read the report. And I'm going to send an email over the summertime about civility. We've been very patient at this board with all the stuff that has been going on. If you're going to make an accusation, Ivan, and you're going to speak the way that you speak, then you need to be very specific. So, you know, you're talking, I was confused for like the first 10 minutes of what you were talking about because you made absolutely no sense. And I say that respectfully. If you're going to make an accusation that somebody's doing something nefarious or that the board is not conducting our business in a proper way, I take personal offense to that because I've always tried to be straight with everybody on this board. And I've always tried to allow people to speak, yourself included, Barbara included. That includes everybody. So again, if you're going to make statements, please be, and this goes for every board member. If you're going to make statements, please be very specific about what the statements that you're making so that we all understand what's being said so that we can address it. And then we have recordings. So everybody can go to our YouTube channel and check. The nominating committee lasted only 36 minutes. You know, you don't need to emphasize or, you know, exaggerate what was going on. That's all. I'm done.
That's totally fine. And Dr. Burke, I know that you have other people in place to speak. I'm just rebuttaling. Again, I don't think anything was underhanded. I said that, and I apologize to the board if things weren't clear. I'm only trying to pick and choose and be politically correct in what I'm saying because I don't want to be held. Again, I said I do not think anything was underhanded. But I'm saying if we're gonna hold ourselves to this,
Denise, go for it. Denise.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. George, thank you so much. You made some of the very same points that I was going to make. I just think that you can't say that you don't find something to be underhanded and then say, oh, but by the way, it was underhanded. So it's not what you're saying is not very clear. It's not very clear and it's not true. Okay, that's all I really have to say on the subject. Thank you.
Dr. Goff. Dr. Goff.
Star 6, Dr. Goff.
Dr. Goff.
She's trying to do it now. She's trying to do it.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm telling you, everybody, good afternoon, good evening. I've been on this phone since 6:45. I heard everything, heard the presentation, heard the roll call, heard the complaint, heard the arguments and displeasement. I've been on this board, I don't know how many years, I'm quite sure it's over 10. And I've never heard such thing I'm hearing now on this board. I mean, I appreciate being on the board. I love it. I sit on 3 boards. And if we don't get ourselves together and act professionally and respect each other and complain, yes, your complaint is absolutely necessary. You have a right to be judgmental on certain things. You have a right to vote. You have a right to make sure you follow the policy and the law. But you have some very professional, caring people on Board 12. I'm one of them. But we need to get our act together and act professionally, unless you're going to lose a lot of good board members that really, truly want to be on the board. But I'm not dealing with nonsense and wasting my time when I can do other things. I'm telling you guys, because the public outside is talking about us. We're the greatest board and the most effective board and get a lot of stuff done. But we got to start utilizing our time professionally and very considerably, because we are not. We're not. I mean, we got to take a look at ourselves. We are role models for other folks to come on this board. If you got to complain and something is done incorrect, then do something about it. Correct it. And I'm present, and I vote yes on the presentation, and let's move forward because it's a long night. Thank you very much for your ears.
Thanks, Johnny. I got your information.
Michael?
Yes, Mr. Stricker.
Yeah, as a parliamentarian, I just want to say at the last meeting, we said that we would send a Google ballot out with the people who wanted to run with their names on it. And you would have a certain date to return your vote. Now, people voted, but a lot of people didn't vote. The key is the people that voted had to be at the WebEx meeting for their vote to count. So there was 1 or 2 people, I believe, maybe 3 that didn't show up. One was stuck in traffic and so forth and so on. And this is not the first time we call them in to find out where they are. They have to appear if you want your vote to count. And I don't know what the issue is here. Everything was done above board because I trust everyone that was dealt in this. And I tell you, I'm very upset that the attitudes pop up and say, imply that something underhanded was done. It was nothing done. And a long time ago, many times it happened on the board when we didn't have a quorum and we had to take a vote for the borough president. We call people up and we drag them in so we can have the vote. So this is nothing new. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stricker. Ted, you still have your hand up? Or
Yes.
question?
Okay. I mean, we spent the last 20 minutes on this and wanted to talk about when Clinton Mike finished. I just wanted to add that coming out of our nominations meeting, we had a discussion about candidates who were nominated for multiple positions. And I just want to underscore that what we said, I believe it was Paul Lanzano who said it in our last meeting, that we are going to have the position that has the least amount of authority voted on first, as a matter of fact, in that order, so that if you're a candidate for multiple positions and you're elected in, let's say, the first position, that's it. You can't vote again because now you already hold a position. So I just want to underscore that.
Thank you, Ted. Dr. Goff made a very salient point into that. I have an announcement that I'm going to make, but I'm going to make it in executive session. George, is not going to take that long. I see you rolling your eyes. It's not going to take that long. So I'm going to make an announcement in executive session because we're almost done. The only other bit of business that we have is a new business, which is the reauthorization of the ad hoc committees, in particular bylaws and not-for-profit. Beatrice, I know that we talked about doing a cursory survey result, but I think that based on this discussion, we're going to go into executive session now. So I'm just going to ask for, so if you can hold off your results until September, I
That works for me.
that. And
That works.
I wasn't planning that, but as we said, hang on, George, we spent at least 20 minutes talking about something that should have taken all of, what, 2 or 3. So on that note, I have an announcement I need to make to board members and staff only. Okay, yes, George.
I would like
Well,
to have something said too.
okay, well, just Barbara, real quick. We have to vote on a resolution extending our our positions until October. So we didn't do that.
Okay.
And that, yeah. All right, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So I apologize, George, because I'm sorry, I got distracted. You're absolutely right, and I think Clinton, speaking for him, I'm sure that we all probably got a little bit distracted. So with that being said, we need that motion to extend the current executive officers until the vote.
I'll second it.
No, I can't make the motion, Mr. Stricker. I need a
So
motion.
I make a motion that we extend the existing executive board until September.
I second it. John Isaac.
Okay. So the motion's been made and properly seconded. I'm going to ask that this be a unanimous vote so that we can move forward.
It should be October, not September.
Okay, October, that's fine. Okay, so can you restate the motion?
I'll withdraw my second so he can restate it.
Right, can you restate the motion, Ted?
Sure, I make a motion that the current.
Make it unanimous too, Ted.
I make a motion that the till October, which is when our next election will be held.
And I second that motion.
Without objection, so ordered. So the current executive officers will stay in place until the next election. You, George, for reminding me, because I totally forgot about that. Okay.
Michael, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to make sure that you remember to give reauthorizations to your ad hoc committees.
Yes, ma'am. I hadn't forgotten about that. I hadn't forgotten about that. That's the last order of business. And then we're gonna, yes, Alfredo.
I just wanted to say, being that Toba's here, just to congratulate him on winning the presidency of the 4-7 precinct.
Okay. New business. So we need to reauthorize the ad hoc committees, and bylaws is one of them. And this, of course, as everybody knows, that's a very important committee. And also, as I said, the not-for-profit committee, I think the work that, and I won't be too long, how that came from an idea from February of 2020 to the work that our first vice chair, I'm thinking about Beatrice, Ageria did initially, right? But chairing that committee, and then Beatrice took it over once Ageria got elected first vice chair. The work that these two women have done to make the not-for-profit committee what it is second to none. And I really appreciate that. So I'm going to ask for a motion of unanimous consent that we extend those two committees from July 1st of this year to June 30th of next year.
I so move. Make the motion that we extend it from June 1st through July 31 of next year.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Without objection?
Hold the question.
Okay.
This is a unanimous vote, Ms. Ortiz. This is a unanimous vote. We're not calling the question.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Without objection?
Wait, sorry, who made the motion and seconded it?
I made the motion. This is Judith.
And John Isaac second.
And we
Without
took
objection, so ordered.
to June 30th next year, Paul.
Right. So let's wrap this up. Oh, I forgot Ms. Gibson wanted to say something. Thank you, George. Before we get out of here, Ms. Gibson, I forgot you had something you want to say.
Yes, I want to ask for clarification. I'm going to say it again. I want to ask for clarification of the new part of the investigation of others. A new investigation of others. I want the clarification, sir.
talking about the discipline committee, right?
Yes,
No,
ma'am.
she's not. She's not talking about that.
Barbara, hold on. Be specific. What is it? What are you asking
It's
for?
about,
Because there's certain things that we can't talk about.
Exactly.
Well,
he
go
already
ahead.
said it. I just want him to clarify and repeating it again
Clarify what?
about the investigation for others. He said it's going to be a lawyer and two others.
No, no. If you're referring to the discipline committee, that is a mandate that was given to us by the borough president. Yes. So it has nothing to do with investigation into others unless somebody raises issues.
Correct. And I want to know, why do you think this came about?
Because the borough president sent everybody an email back in 2020, you included.
I asked you, why do you think it came about? Why did he send out the letter? Why?
Why did the borough president send out the letter?
Mm-hmm. You're not
He sent.
answering.
George, let me just say this. The borough president sent this letter out to all the community boards. Let's
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
Let's start with that.
Thank you, Judith. Yeah, Barbara, there were issues that were raised. The backstory is that several years ago, I'm talking 6 years ago, there were issues at other community boards, and the borough president's office, because they have oversight over every community board, had to mete out the punishment, the discipline. They don't want to do that because they're not there on a daily basis. So if you read the attorney's letter from the borough president's office, again, this was done more than a year ago. They asked us to implement. As a matter of fact, Bill Hall was the first person to raise this issue. He was our former chair. And if you remember correctly, he appointed another former board member, Hillary Bloomfield, as the discipline committee chair. That never really got off the ground because you have to vote on this issue. To add a committee to our bylaws, you have to vote on it. So that's why. But Barbara, I'm more than happy tomorrow to find the email or even reach out to Tom again so that you can see the email. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, it should be already in your bylaws book. Because I put that in everybody's bylaws book.
It's right there. So it's I'm looking at it right here. So if anybody came and picked it up, it's right here in a doggone book. So it's really unnecessary that individuals are raising because they didn't pay attention. So in any event, I'm moving on. We got to get out of here. And I need to make an announcement in the executive session. So let's get ready to adjourn this meeting. Before we get out of here,
Doctor, a prayer, please.
Dr. Robbins, first of all, I know that Norbert asked for the prayer, and so we like to rotate it around. So I'm going to ask Deacon Mike to do the prayer this month. But Norbert had asked me 3 weeks ago to do the prayer, and it just so happens he's not at the meeting, and he asked me to do the prayer. Go figure, right? But
I don't care who does it, but we need it.
Well, Deacon Mike is going to do it, and then, like I said, I'm going to make an announcement. I need to go, and so all board members need to stay. Anybody, I see 45 participants. If you are not on the board, you need to go, and I'll make sure to scrub this because we need to make this quick. May birthdays, we missed. I know the first vice chair mentioned it, but Marlene had a birthday in May. I forget the exact date. June birthdays, Mr. Brown was on the 7th. Miss Sadie's birthday was on the 8th. Alfredo's birthday was on the 14th, and Miss Benitez's birthday was on the 20th. So she just had it. So happy birthday to those 4 board members. Actually, a belated birthday to Miss Brown, Marlene, in May. Our July birthday, since we won't be meeting in July, Mr. Lanzano's is on the 2nd. Carl Lanzano. Mr. Hall's is born on Independence Day, of all days. And Dr. Dina Robbins' birthday is on the 12th. So those birthdays are coming up in July, and hopefully by then I'll make an announcement on the August birthdays. If you celebrate an anniversary, happy anniversary to all of our couples that have anniversaries in the month of June and July and in August. So let me just say this. So in September, we're supposed to be going back to in-person meetings. And so I'm going to close what I'm going to read. I'm going to do in session. To Dr. Goff, to Beatrice, to Mrs. Clyde, Tolene, Miss Sadie, Mrs. Lanzana, and Alfredo. Those are all the board members that I had the pleasure of seeing in person during this pandemic. You know, and I must say it's always good to see board members, but it's always good to see you in person. But to be able to see and touch each of those board members, and this is actually Beatrice, you were the first one when, of course, you first joined the board, and when you came to get your book. Of course, I saw, you know, I was always good to see people before a board meeting, and to see Mrs. Clyde and Tolene before the March and April board meetings, respectively, was great. To have break bread with Dr. Goff was absolutely fantastic. And last but not least, seeing Miss Sadie, Mr. Lanzana, and Alfredo early this month was just great to see each and every one of them. And in September, you know, I will see each and every one of you because we will be meeting in person again. So with that being said, Deacon Mike, I need a motion for adjournment. I need you to close us out in prayer, and then I'm going to call for an executive session. And it is 9:50 at that point. So I need a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion that we adjourned.
Okay, thank you, Ted. Is there a second? Second by Denise Bond. Okay.
Dr. Burke.
Yes.
Hi, I would like to say on July 31st, Safer will be giving a free backpack to the boys and girls in the park at Eastchester Heights complex. Anybody who has any school material or donation that would like to give, please call me and give it up. We have about over 500-600 children will be coming for backpack and nutritional grab and go snack. So if you're offering anything to give up free, please call me. We need anything we can have, pencil, crayon, dollars, whatever you could give up. Thank you. Enjoy the summer.
No problem. Thank you, Dr. Goff. And again, it was great seeing you in April as well. So I need a motion for.
I'd make a motion to adjourn this meeting, but I would just request that everybody come out to Hafen Park on July 12th. That's my birthday, remember?
It's your birthday, Dr. Robbins.
And come out and commemorate the abolition, but I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Eichelberger. So motion's been moved and properly seconded. With any other unreadiness that has been handled, motion passes and we call for the meeting to be adjourned. Deacon Mike, can you close us out in prayer, please, sir?
Let's look to the Lord.
Amen.
We just want to ask you to spread your love, cover this community in your blood, Lord. Lord, I'm asking that you give the community board members discernment, Lord. Let us do our community work with a clean heart. Let us be able to move forward, Lord. Show us the way of how we can get the community's work done and be a better board, Lord. We ask this in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. All right. So what I need, if you are not a board member, so Toba, I'm looking at Miss Conley from Senator Biaggi's office. I'm looking at Marilex. I need you to get off. Denise, I don't know, Echeverria. Okay. I need to scrub you. Okay. Benga, you got to go. You're not a board member. This is strictly for board members. All right.
So, are we getting money to go, or just for free?
Toba, this is Miss Sanders. Toba, I'm serious. This is for board members. All right.
Okay.
So,
you guys have a fine deliberation. I wish you happy summer. God bless you.
All right. God bless you. Congratulations again, Toba. You missed it. I could have said that earlier in the meeting, but you weren't here.
I was stuck somewhere.
Right.
Sorry.
So you're holding us up and we got to go. So Toba, Miss Sanders, you have to leave as well. This is strictly for board. We're going into an executive session.